And here we go. It's Studio Series Bumblebee movie Shockwave time. Yeah, I got this guy. He's actually kind of neat. I am baffled by the lack of bicep swivels, which I think at this point is no secret that he doesn't have them. But like, other than that, this is actually a pretty cool Shockwave. He is the H tank that he never was in the movie, but it makes sense for Shockwave. And it rolls as you saw. It actually rolls surprisingly well, given how it all lines up and comes together. The turret rotates. It's a little awkward, but it does rotate. The hose can get in the way, but it rotates pretty much as something like this would need to, I think. Like, can go pretty much to 90 degrees before like the hose can still kind of go around and it's okay, so that's not bad. And yeah, the detailing is nice. You got a lot of purple and silvery gunmetal-y gray. I don't know. It's very simple, but comes together nicely. And as I said, rolls shockingly well. And I think for what it is, it looks suitably intimidating. Yeah, as you saw, the turret can rotate. You can also angle it up a bit because you can't angle it up a lot, but like it's weird because the whole thing is just the gun on a peg, and so that peg does kind of limit things a bit. But like you can look up with the peg, but primarily I think it's just for rotation. This I wish could like lock. I wish this locked in place or was a little sturdier for this mode because it's just so easy to knock it up like that, which I guess that could be aiming up. I don't know. It's silly, but it's fine. But yeah, it looks pretty good from the back. That's a little bit of a void, but and yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much all I could say about this tank mode. It's surprisingly big though. So here is tank. Here is Dinobot. Stop a little bit. There we go. And Global Prime and Samus. So there he is with all of them. But more importantly, let's bring in Bumblebee movie, Studio Series Bumblebee movie Megatron in his tank mode, because, tank and tank. And Shockwave's tank does look bigger. Megatron's gun is bigger, because of course it is, but the turret section is bigger. But like the tank is, like Shockwave's tank mode is more spread out. Megatron's tank mode is more dense and compact. And I gotta say, like holding these two guys together, he feels like almost twice as heavy as him. I haven't actually weighed them, but Megatron is dense. Shockwave is not. He's not. That's not to say Shockwave feels like a hollow mess. It's just there's a lot going on with this Megatron. Also, just for fun, here he is with Studio Series Core Class Bumblebee movie Shockwave, and it's pretty much the same design. In a lot of ways, it's almost the same transformation, which I've got opinions on, as pertains to the whole bicep swivel thing. But yeah, Core Shockwave weirdly can handle the upward motion a bit better, and the rotation. I mean, the rotation's a little bit more free with Core Shockwave because he doesn't have the hose, but yeah, I don't know. It's the two of them together. And finally, we've got Shockwave's tank mode. So of course we got to do the duck tank. All right, so before we transform Shockwave here, if you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done on the channel and you would like to support me, I've got a Patreon or a Ko-fi, links to both down in the description as well as at the end of the video. Otherwise, always a good time to like, comment, share, subscribe, that kind of thing. So typical YouTube stuff. Now, to transform Shockwave, I'm going to unplug the cannon. Now the cannon is actually, there's like a double hinge here, so you want to first, well, fold the peg back in there, but then you want to double hinge this in, and that just kind of collapses this in and shortens up the cannon just a bit. And then this can just kind of stay like that. It kind of stays tethered on this rubbery plastic hose thing. It actually stays in pretty well, and it's actually a little stretchy too. So yeah, no real worries about this going anywhere once you plug it in. Next, going to untab what will become the arms here. There's little tabs right here that plug into what become the biceps. So just untab those, swing these down, and bring those out a bit. What I like to do actually at this point is you can do this even like from the very beginning. It's actually, I was going to show this and totally forgot. With the, once you disconnect this, you can just immediately take this, and there is a little tab on the inside of this little peg armature here that tabs into this thicker slot, like the narrower but thicker slot here on the forearm. So you just line those up and tab that in, and that connects the gun to the forearm, and you can just leave it like that. So like, yeah, it's parts forming, but like all you do is pop the gun off, transform it, pop it right on there, and you can just leave it like that for the rest of the transformation. So anyway, I'm going to untab this and bring it out. I'm going to, much like the core class figure, untab this and swing this whole section down, but the head is actually pushed in a bit. So you can swing that up, because it does actually swing in. So swing that up, and I will talk about this later. Can untab the forearm and rotate it. Same deal here. Untap it to be able to bend the elbow. There's just like a little slot in there that you can just kind of see there that tabs over this little tab here, and that locks it in place for vehicle mode. But untap it, rotate the forearm, and then on this hand, I mean, he has two hands, so if you wanted to, you could open this up and flip out another hand, but it's Shockwave, so I'm not going to do that. So that's just, that hand just lives there, and this gets pegged on here. Come on, find the hole. Come on. Why are you fighting me all of a sudden? There we go. So we're just going to do it with this hand, but you just pull out this entire assembly here, rotate the fist out, close it up. There we go. And now also, just like the core figure, this section here untabs kinda. There's like a tab that goes in there and folds out. The insides of the legs peg into this bit here. So just unpeg those, swing this assembly out. One thing that is different is this assembly actually tabs in right into these thigh pieces. So when you push that out, you can kind of see little peg holes that it was tapped into. Bring down the legs on the hips, as you do with the core class figure. Fold out the feet. And one extra step is you want to pull out these treads, rotate them around 180 degrees, and push them back in. So that way the wheels for the treads are facing in. And it just kind of cleans up the leg a little bit. Gets the, let's see, are the treads actually in the way of the knee bend? I don't think they are, no. So this is kind of a superfluous move, but it cleans up the legs a little bit visually. So there's that. Bring this up a little bit just to show what's happening here. Now, this should go back, yeah. So this piece here that the turret pegged into, it will move with this whole assembly. It's actually really cleverly engineered. But basically, you just bring this up and it'll bring that centerpiece up along with it. And fold this in, and the chest piece will come in and tab into the torso. And that's it. There we have Bumblebee movie, Studio Series Bumblebee movie Shockwave in robot mode, and he looks really cool. He does look really cool. He's big for a Voyager, something I think everyone's already aware of. But yeah, he is definitely big for a Voyager, and his articulation baffles me, but we will get to that. But he looks great. He's incredibly clean. The only kibble he has is the backs of the calves with this going on, but like that's fine because where else are the treads going to go? The gun just goes over the hand. You don't have to worry about that. Like, yeah, there's no kibble on this guy because they need to worry about it. He looks great. The color is great. It's the same color as the tank mode, but a little bit of it is a little more prominent now. Like, I like these coppery highlights in a few places, like in the shoulders and the forearms. Kind of wish you got them in a few other places, but whatever. I also appreciate the purple on the back, like the shoulder blades. I just think that looks cool. So yeah, he looks neat. He looks like Bumblebee movie Shockwave. And dig him. I also like the translucent purple on the chest. That's just neat. I'm curious now if that's a separate piece or if it's painted. Come on. Unhook. There we go. Let's see. Looking in there, it looks like the translucent purple is a separate piece, but is attached to the armature here. Huh. Interesting. I guess it's good that the entire chest is not made of translucent purple plastic. So I like that. Now, with all that out of the way, let's look at the head. And as you might have noticed, he's got a bright yellow eye. That is my doing. That is me. He does not come like that. It's actually a light pipe thing. It's a very dull yellow, and I just didn't like it because it didn't stand out that much. So I painted it. It was actually really easy to do. There's just a couple of screws in the back of the head here. You just unscrew those two screws, take the head apart, and you just basically slide his face off, and then you can just kind of pop the eye out because the eye is a separate piece. And here's what the disassembled face and eye look like. And yeah, very easy once you get it out there because all I had to do was take it out and then paint it. And it was just did a couple coats of white in like I'm using acrylics now. I'm moving on from enamels because enamels do have not a tendency, but they have a potential to damage the plastic. So I don't want to do that. So did a couple of layers in just a flat white acrylic, then a couple of layers in yellow, and one trick I kind of been trying to take with me from seeing in like a TFW thread somewhere was that like you can get more even coats that are a bit less streaky if you get like water in with the acrylic paint and just apply lighter coats and just like multiple lighter coats. It tends to make it a little bit more even, and I'm inclined to agree. Like there are still streaks in the paint, but it's way less pronounced than what I was getting before. So yeah, I just think the bright yellow eye looks better. It definitely looks better to me than the dull yellow eye that he comes with normally. So yeah, I'm glad I did that, and it was super easy to do, as I said. The only real difficult part was figuring out how to hold the piece while I was painting it, and then figure out what to do while waiting for it to dry. Fortunately, I have this like model drying, like this model kit drying thing that I got when I was back when I was doing Gunpla, which was a while back, a couple of years ago now. But it comes in handy for things like this because it's just like a little clamp to hold the little piece in place, and then I just stick the little pole in the little base, and it holds it up, and I can let it sit and dry and not have to worry about it. But anyway, I think it looks better like this. But you know, outside of that, I didn't do anything to this guy, so the head sculpt is great. It's very Bumblebee movie Shockwave, very squished down, a lot flatter than typical Shockwave, but there's lots of detail in there. I like the gunmetal-ish gray that they used for like little bits on the sides. And you got the ears, which are a little bit flexy. Purple all the way around, looks really good. And again, that eye is fantastic. I like the shape of it. I like the way it kind of has these little divots on like 3 sides. It's neat. I just don't like that the default one is so dull. Now, for articulation, I saw the head I can't tell if it's a ball joint. I think it might be, but like it's pointless because you're not getting any like up or down, left or right. But it does rotate all the way around. You'd think I'd know that it's a ball joint or not because I opened the head. The arms, I'm going to do this arm because you've got the hose there. The hose doesn't get, like, you can rotate the arm almost all the way around with the hose attached. So it's not that bad, but for this arm, I'm just going to show you can go all the way around. You can go out to just about 90 on an actual detented joint too, which is kind of nice. There is no bicep swivel. And I will talk about that when we're done with the articulation. But yeah, no bicep swivel. You get an elbow that can bend backwards a bit because of the transformation, because that's where it like locks in. But elbow goes back a bit, can go forward to just under 90, I think. And then you get forearm rotation. If you have his hand out, the hand is on a ball joint for the transformation, but you're not going to get any like wiggle out of it, but you do get rotation. So you get wrist swivel. He also has waist rotation. The hips can go forward to 90, can go back to just about 90, can go out to 90. You get a thigh rotation. You get a 90-ish, just under 90-degree knee bend. You also get a knee rotation just above the knee. So again, like I'll touch on this when we get to that ranting thing I'm going to do, but like, why? And then the feet can go forward just a little bit, can go back a fair bit, and you can also tilt a little bit. You get some ankle tilt in there. So pretty posable. It's just the lack of a bicep, which is a bummer. It is definitely a bummer for me, as it is for a lot of people. It doesn't bother me with him in hand as much as I thought it would, because even without the bicep swivel, he's still, like, he's pretty expressive for, you know, I mean, he's a Shockwave, so, but, like, he is pretty expressive, even without the biceps. Like, you can get him into some cool dynamic poses, even if he doesn't have biceps. The biceps are missed, but they're also not, strictly speaking, necessary. You can work around them. And it's like, I appreciate that. I still think he should have them, but it's not like, oh no, toy ruined, toy is garbage because no bicep swivels. Because, I mean, he's Shockwave, so I think, like, for my purposes at least, I appreciate that even if I can't do the bicep swivel, if you rotate the forearms in a bit, it kind of gives the illusion almost of the biceps being swiveled in a bit, or turned in a bit, which I think works. But yeah, so he doesn't have bicep swivels. It wouldn't bother me too much, except for the fact that, one, this guy has bicep swivels. And he's like, I'm not trying to complain about price points. I'm just saying, like, this $10 figure has more arm articulation than this $35 figure. And that's kind of absurd to me. Especially because, like, they pretty much mimicked this guy's transformation to make this guy. They just added some extra steps in a few places and gave him way more articulation. Of course, made him bigger. But, like, the overall transformation is pretty much the same. Really. The only real difference is the head doesn't collapse in. Instead, that's what the gun pegs into. and the arms tab into the legs rather than, or not the legs, but the arms tab in. Oh no, it is the legs, because yeah, the arms tab into the legs rather than tabbing into the upper body. So like as someone who is a bit of a nerd for the engineering side of Transformers, I just feel like there has to have been a way for them to do it. Like, yes, that is where a bicep swivel would be. I understand that. But I feel like, so put the bicep swivel there anyway, and all you have to do is straighten out the bicep swivel to make that peg hole for it to peg into wherever it pegs into for the back here for the vehicle mode. Like, I just feel like they could have done that. And if not, then there has to have been another way to get this to, settle into place for the vehicle mode. Because it's just back here, just pegs in right back here. And again, like I just feel like they could have done a swivel and just have this peg in anyway, and just have it be like the two joints coming together and pegs in. It may not have been as secure that way as like a solid piece, but like, this isn't a heavy guy. It's not a huge, dense, load-bearing thing. It would have been fine. The other thing too is, like, okay, so he doesn't have a bicep swivel. Why does he have two thigh swivels? Why can't he swivel his biceps, but he has a swivel here and here? Why? Why did they do that? Like, why does this exist? This doesn't serve a purpose. This isn't anything necessary for the transformation. Is this just like a pre-tool thing? I don't know, but like, it's just, more than anything, I'm annoyed by the lack of a bicep swivel because he has an extra thigh swivel. Like, it's like, this guy had much more limited leg articulation because he doesn't have thigh swivels, but it's just, so instead of no thigh swivels but bicep swivels, we get way too many thigh swivels and no bicep swivels. It's as I said, I'm not mad about the lack of a bicep. I'm mad about the fact that the lack of a bicep doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't be bothered by the lack of, like, I'm really not bothered by the lack of a bicep swivel that much, because like I said, you can work around it and you can still get pretty dynamic with it, and really you don't even, like, when you're looking at them, you can't even really notice the lack of a bicep swivel that much. It's more just when you're trying to pose them. But it just bugs me so much that there doesn't seem to be a reason for there to not be any bicep swivels. I wish that I could see a reason, like an actual reason for it, because all the reasons, like all the theories I've seen and things that I try and think of for myself, just doesn't cut it in my mind as an excuse. And I feel like it can't even be a parts thing, because if it was a parts thing, then just don't give him two thigh swivels. Like, that's all you'd need to do. But I don't know, maybe it was like a molding thing, like in the actual mold. I don't know. It's so weird and annoying to me that that's how they decided to do it. And maybe in the future we'll get an upgrade kit that gives him bicep swivels. I don't know that I feel all that inclined to disassemble him for the sake of that, but it's just such a baffling choice. Anyway, rant over for now. Addendum, because I completely forgot to do this. Blast effect check time. You're going to be disappointed. So it looks like there's a little thing there for blast effect to peg onto, and the blast effect does go on, but it does not want to stay on. If you really like jam it in there, no. You can plug a blast effect in like that, or have one coming out of his back, I guess. But yeah, for whatever reason, you can't put a blast effect on the end of his gun. So we'll just put Shockwave off to the side here and bring in our normal size comparisons. And as you can probably already see, this Voyager is, for a Voyager, kind of gigantic, which is no secret to a lot of people who've been paying attention to this figure. Bring this forward a little bit more. But yeah, he's comparatively huge. Like, actually comparatively huge. Bring in Burnout, and you can see again, like, this does not look like a Voyager standing next to a Deluxe. It looks more like a leader standing next to a Deluxe, which is interesting because if we bring in an actual leader, he is almost the same height as leader class Bumblebee movie Megatron. Again, Megatron feels heavier and is way more dense, and he has way more parts to him, and he has biceps swivels, but I say I'm not bothered by it, and then I won't shut up about it. But yeah, like, just the fact that Shockwave is so big is kind of impressive. And we also saw him briefly before, but here he is with the core class figure. And it's kind of interesting how the colors on the core class are a lot different. Like, the reds are much darker, the grays are much lighter. It's an interesting contrast in the way they approached it. I almost feel like it would work better if they used the lighter purple with the lighter gray, and like maybe either brought the lighter gray from the core figure to this one, or rather, I think it'd actually be better if they brought the darker purple to this one. So they'd have, like, if this purple was this darker purple, I think it would work even better. I don't mind the contrast here. I just feel like if they're going for like the dark Cybertronian movie aesthetic thing, then like maybe using the darker shade of purple would have been nice. But not a complaint, just something I'm thinking about. And finally, here he is with the other purple tank, the duck tank. And that does it for Studio Series Bumblebee movie Shockwave. This guy was a surprise. He was a surprise in the fact that I was surprised I actually got a hold of him. Like, in our local Target, they actually had a couple of this guy on the shelf. I was not expecting that because our local Target's selection is usually almost always not great, which probably more the fault of the distribution than theirs specifically, but like, just bums me out every time I go there looking for stuff. Like, I thought, like, Legacy Gears, I don't want to pay, like, I don't want to buy Legacy Gears online, go to the hassle of like trying to like really, pre-order whatever. But he's that kind of figure that for me, it's like, if I find him in a store, I'll probably grab him. But annoyingly, he is not in any stores because our local store selection is terrible. But yeah, I was surprised to find him in store. Surprised by how little the lack of bicep swivels bothers me in terms of Shockwave as a figure. But as I said, that lack of a bicep swivel bothers me in terms of an engineering nerd, like toy engineering nerd, because it just seems like they could have put them in there, and it baffles me why they're not there. And that's what bothers me. It's not that I can't swivel his biceps, it's that I just can't comprehend the logistics behind not putting them in there. But I've made that rant already long enough. So yeah, he was just a surprise in those respects, but also another surprise is how much I actually do enjoy this guy. I was kind of thinking, I don't need the Voyager. I've already got the core figure, and I'm just going to stick with the core figure because the core figure is really good. It's just the lack of thigh swivels that kind of stinks, and he doesn't have a waist swivel, but like, so he's a core figure. But like, I was fully prepared to just have the core figure be it and be content with that, but no. They had him in store, and I was just like, yeah, I'll bite, and I am genuinely surprised by how much I enjoy him, despite my griping about the biceps. Even without them, he is actually pretty cool. So, I think that's enough of that. So that has been my look at Studio Series Bumblebee movie Shockwave. What do you all think of this guy? Or the core figure? Or even the Bingo Toys version? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And, got one more newish figure in the pipeline. So you get to see who that is next time.